Beneath the Beret, Ibrahim Traoré's Advice to Nigeria. Part 1, A Voice in the Hall. Do you want your gold or your chains? The room was dim but electric. Cameras clicked, translators whispered, and leaders fidgeted in velvet chairs. Somewhere in the distance, a storm rolled over Abuja's horizon. But inside, another storm had already arrived. He stood at the podium, tall and young, eyes carved from fire and history. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's transitional president, didn't smile. He didn't need to. Nigeria, he began, his voice cutting through the air like a blade of truth. Do you want your gold or your chains? The hall fell silent. And so began the most unexpected, uncomfortable, unforgettable speech ever delivered to the Nigerian elite. A child of dust and flame. Before he became a headline, he was a boy of the Sahel. Traoré was raised not in marble mansions, but under the open sky of Bobo Dioulasso. The land was dry, the people tired. The soil knew more struggle than peace. But even as a child, he saw things differently. His mother used to whisper, "The land never betrays, only men do." He watched French companies mine gold beneath barefoot children. He saw presidents fly abroad while villagers drank from poison wells. By the time he joined the army, he knew the enemy wasn't always carrying a gun. Sometimes it wore a suit. Coup of the conscience. Burkina Faso had changed leaders like a broken clock changes hands. But nothing ever moved forward. In September 2022, Traoré, at just 34, seized power. Not for power's sake, but for survival. If we die waiting for help, he said then let us die fighting instead. The people cheered. The West frowned. But Traoré didn't flinch. He kicked out French troops. He strengthened local security. He partnered with neighbors facing the same suffocating grip. Then came the call from Abuja. The gathering of giants. It wasn't an official summit. Not quite. It was billed as an economic consultation. But everyone knew better. Inside Nigeria's State House, presidents, ministers, and advisors from West Africa had gathered. And Ibrahim Traoré had been invited. The Nigerian government was struggling. Oil theft, corruption, insecurity, and foreign dependence choked the nation. Protests brewed. Faith wavered. And into this storm walked a soldier who spoke like a poet, but struck like a rebel. He stood before them, not as a guest, but as a mirror. You ask how to save Nigeria, he said. First, stop selling her. Advice of fire. Traoré's words weren't diplomatic. They were volcanic. Why, he asked, is a land with oil importing fuel? Why does a country with engineers import toothpicks? Why does a nation with warriors wait for permission to defend itself? Ministers shifted in their seats. Generals looked away. But the people watching online roared. He spoke of the CFA franc, still tying African nations to French banks. He spoke of military bases that promised protection but delivered none. He warned of foreign debts that silenced the mouths of presidents. Nigeria, he said, you are not poor. You are plundered. Then came the part that made headlines. The Three Commandments. He laid down 3 truths for Nigeria. Reclaim sovereignty. Shut the gates to those who take without giving. Build your army. Feed your farmers. Protect your waters. Unlearn dependence. Aid is not aid. It is a leash. Learn to live without their crumbs. Unite Africa from within. ECOWAS must serve Africans, not foreign shareholders. We need a coalition of the unwilling to be slaves. Thunder echoed outside, or perhaps it was applause. Reactions and reverberations. Some Nigerian leaders called him naive. Others called him dangerous. But on the streets from Lagos to Kano, his speech played on phones and in minds. Young Nigerians began quoting him. Do you want your gold or your chains? Became graffiti. Hashtags trended. Journalists debated. The youth felt seen. The old guard felt threatened. In the weeks that followed, several Nigerian activists cited Traoré in their campaigns. Debates erupted in parliament. Even President Tinubu reportedly said, "The boy speaks with the fire of legends." A letter left behind. Before leaving Abuja, Traoré left a letter with a Nigerian journalist. It read, "To Nigeria, giant of Africa, wake up. You were not made to kneel. You were made to stand, not for the West, not for the East, but for your children. History watches. Africa waits." It ended simply, "We rise together or we fall forever." The echo in the mountains. Back in Burkina Faso, under the hot sun and crimson skies, Traoré returned to work. He didn't care for fame, but he watched Nigeria closely. In markets, people still whispered of that speech. In homes, fathers replayed it for sons. Mothers said, "That man carries Sankara's ghost." Part 2. Words that shake walls. The fire before the ashes. Nigeria, the giant with tired knees. The land of oil that fuels others, but feeds its own children crumbs. The country of song and sorrow, where hope shines bright and corruption casts its shadow longer. In a closed-door summit room, Ibrahim Traore leaned in. His voice was low, deliberate. "Do not ask what the West thinks. Ask what your children will inherit." His words floated above the polished mahogany table, like fireflies, brief but capable of igniting. The Nigerian delegation, a mix of elected leaders and military heads, sat in uneasy silence. Some shifted in their seats. Others stared, unblinking. President Bola Tinubu, pragmatic, experienced, nodded slowly. He had heard many men talk, but few spoke like this. Traoré wasn't offering advice. He was offering a mirror. Three pillars of sovereignty. You want freedom? Traoré asked, his eyes scanning the room. Then own three things: your land, your resources, and your truth. He broke it down. Land. Secure your borders not just with weapons, but with loyalty. Your soldiers must not serve foreign interests in camouflage. Train them not just in war, but in why they fight. Teach them their ancestors' names. Resources. Your oil flows like a blessing and burns like a curse. Why does it light cities in Europe while your villages stay dark? Renegotiate every contract. Cancel what cannot be cleansed. Nationalize what serves only outsiders. Truth. The enemy is not only at your gates. He is in your textbooks, your TV, your history. Re-educate the youth. Let them know they were empires before they were colonies. Feed them not just food, but pride. There was a long pause. If they fear your past, he said, imagine what your future can do. Corruption is not culture. A Nigerian senator stood up, clearly agitated. But our people are used to incentives. It's how the system works. Traoré did not flinch. Corruption is not your culture. It is your cancer. The thief in Igbada is no different from the thief in uniform. They both sell your dignity to buy silence. He leaned forward. In Burkina Faso, we arrested ministers. We returned stolen lands. We jailed generals. And yes, we made enemies. But the people stood, because justice is louder than fear. His words hit the room like thunder. Not noise, but a warning. The ghosts of Sankara. That evening, Traoré walked alone through the halls of the Nigerian State House. Behind him trailed the echo of Thomas Sankara's ghost, not dead, not forgotten. He stopped at a painting of Nigeria's independence. They gave you flags, he whispered, but not freedom. An aide, watching quietly, asked, do you think we can ever be like Sankara? Traoré turned. Not like him. Better. Sankara walked so you can run. In Abuja, that night, a storm rolled across the skies. But it wasn't rain that woke the city. It was an idea, one too long buried. The red line. The next day, media caught wind. Leaked recordings of Traoré's words circulated. Some praised him. Others called it interference. Western embassies released subtle warnings. Newspapers in Paris and London questioned Traoré's influence campaign. CNN asked, "Is Burkina Faso's captain starting an African fire?" Traoré smiled when he read it. "Good. Let them know we have matches." He addressed the Nigerian press. "If truth causes fear, then let us be terrifying." That evening, Nigerian youths held impromptu rallies. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Nigerise. Hashtag Sankara Spirit. Hashtag Africa Unchained. A new covenant. President Tinubu, usually cautious, released a surprise statement. The future cannot be imported. Nigeria must build it, with its own hands, with its own spine. Policies were announced. Contracts re-reviewed. A special investigative panel on corruption was launched. Defense procurement was shifted towards local production. But the most radical shift? A new civic curriculum. Every Nigerian school would now teach pre-colonial history. Every child would know the names of Yoruba kings, Hausa empires, Bini queens, and Igbo warriors. The departure. Before he left Abuja, Ibrahim Traore visited a classroom. He asked the children, "What do you want to be?" "President," one shouted. "Farmer," said another. A small girl raised her hand. "I want to be free." Traore knelt beside her. "Then you must learn everything they never wanted to teach you." He stood up and left, the sun behind him, casting a long shadow of a man many tried to ignore, but none could forget. Epilogue, the echo that stayed. Weeks later, in rural Kano, a boy recited his speech in class. "We are not poor. We are plundered. We are not weak. We are wounded. But now we will remember. We will rise." Somewhere in Ouagadougou, a captain in a red beret nodded silently. History, once again, had been spoken into motion. Stay tuned for Part 3 on CurioSphere, Pan-African Rising, how youth are redrawing the map of power.